Bits and Bones, my name is Slady V, and welcome to my channel. In this video, before I debut as a VTuber, I wanted to talk about why I've chosen to be a VTuber. How, as a channel that primarily deals in discussion about the creative process, writing, books, and commentary reviews, I felt that this change was necessary. To start, and be perfectly candid, I'm not making this as some sort of fetishized analysis of the phenomenon of humans choosing to take on alternate personas. Because based on the tone of my channel and the depth that I go into with a lot of topics sometimes, it might feel like this is just going to be another one of those essays. Also because, as much as I speak from a very honest place and talk quite often of my experiences as reference, I do still feel like it all comes off a bit more professional than personal, which is something that I hope to fix with this change in the end. I just wanted to talk over the whole process of the decision because it may seem strange to a lot of people in my sphere of interests and discussions, which is a good lead-in to point number 1, niche. Everyone on YouTube or content creator in general has to find their niche. And to answer your question, no. I'm not trying to be the first VTube writer-tuber. I'm sure that there's loads of content creators that see a gap out there and they just form themselves to fit into it, but that's not me. This transformation has been developing for a long time, and it actually started on my second channel, but we'll talk about that later. On my second channel, however, I mostly do bad art and gaming and ranting, and being a VTuber isn't so uncommon in those spheres of content. I haven't exactly found another writer-tube VTuber yet. If there's one out there, please introduce me in the comments. But I guess that brings me to point number 2, Booktube. Booktube is a mess of privilege and vlogging expertise, you could say. The gems among the Booktube channels that actually talk about what the book was about and how good it really was in a rational discussion are hard to find among the plethora of book hauls, TBR lists, monthly wrap-ups, and anticipated releases. Kill me now. But anyway, there's a reason that the mindless consumption of buying and, this might sound crazy to some of you, the mindless consumption of reading books is so popular, and that's the vlogging aspect. The big booktubers out there are quite usually saying nothing and just showing viewers pretty books, and that in and of itself is a niche. And I can hate on it, sure, whatever, like little salty bitter old me, but I'm partially like that because the reason they're successful is because of two things. They're charismatic and they have a face, and I have neither. Mostly because it's hard to be charismatic without a face. Booktube is all about faces. People. Because Booktube is generally more casual, it doesn't need a whole lot of thought or content besides squeeing about books, and then you just want to see and hear squee about books from people that you like, seeing physically, because of their personality and their face and just who they are. And as much as I'm not a Booktube specific channel where I just read and talk about books, I'm also a WriterTube channel because I'm a writer and I talk about writing and creating, and it's sort of the same in terms of how successful you are compared to how likable or lookable you are. It's all still essentially vlogging until you get into the AuthorTube realm, which is, if we're all being honest here, just an even more niche part of EntrepreneurTube, where they focus more on selling writing than ever actually creating anything worth reading in the first place. Yet I digress. So point 3, which I've already kind of talked about, is faces. People love them. And as much as I've told myself over the years what someone looks like doesn't matter as much as what they're saying, I can't deny that it does help. You can hear me, but you can't see me, so it's harder to like, understand, and relate to me. And that's the truth. Humans are social creatures, even if they're as antisocial as it gets. Like me. And I noticed a lot over the last while how much a simple persona can change the experience a viewer has. A persona is a lens through which you view a content creator. So let me give you 2 examples that pushed me closer to my decision to adopting one myself. The first being overly sarcastic productions. I followed OSP years and years ago. I followed them because I was looking for good commentary on tropes, and they have good, thorough commentary that I highly recommend. They look at every side of a trope that I do and sometimes don't know, and I loved that. I loved what they talked about and how they talked about it. By all means, I love their content. But at the same time, for the quality of their content, I was a little put off by the quality of the aesthetics on their videos. I saw the numbers that they were getting in views. Even if they aren't artists themselves, I felt that the need for them to pay someone else for their presentation was warranted. Because they were so big, it was supposed to look better. As a viewer, I expected and oddly demanded better visually. And that offset of quality of content versus quality of aesthetic bothered me for some time. It made me a little mad, in a weird way, that their commentary was so good, but other people weren't going to give them the casual chance of a watch because they're just a shitty MS Paint sketch sitting in a chair with a projection screen in the background of flipping through semi-relevant stock images. But overall, I realized why they doubled down on their lackluster presentation, because the writing advice and commentary was what they were coming back for, not the aesthetics. And they, as a creator, needed to assert that the expectation of quality in one regard did not demand the standards in another, especially if their only love, their only real passion was just for the craft of storytelling. And that's not technically visual. We as viewers can imagine things for ourselves if it's described well enough. And OSP has doubled down on their, crappy aesthetics, no offense, again, over the years. You know their thumbnails when you see them, you recognize their avatars a mile away, because it's that unrefined MS Paint, hard red and blue, everywhere. It sticks out because, quite honestly, no one else of their caliber would commit to something like that. And that sets them apart. It works for them, but I'm also too visual a person, and I want the quality of my content to show in more ways than one. In spite of seeing OSP's success, I know that I couldn't just talk over a half-assed drawing of myself. It wouldn't feel right. I kind of just expect better from myself. That said, the strange thing is that even with OSP's avatars, which I find lackluster, I also noticed that the very, very slight movement of their avatars in their videos was more engaging. If their tone shifts, their arms or expression slightly moves, and that conveys more about what they're saying and how they're saying it, which is good, even if I can't settle for something as simple as OSP's avatars. My second example of knowing that I wanted an avatar was Duchess Celestia's channel. Duchess Celestia is a fully commentary and heavily art channel. While she talks, she usually shows a commission or random piece of artwork that she's done, speedrunning as she talks, along with a little box, kind of like a video message window, where she shuffles through stills of her avatar expressions to coordinate with what she's saying. Essentially, she uses a streamer template for her videos, with one part running unrelated footage to keep us stimulated, and the other showing her 2D avatar emoting. And it looks really good. It's consistent. It's like looking at a soft pastel desktop screen with a couple app windows open. And it's crazy how that seemingly simple and by all means small screen visually representing the speaker adds to the experience of listening to them. It adds that little bit of personality, but it's also just that much more engaging, seeing a face express what they're saying. I respect the hell out of Duchess Celestia and her dedication to commentary on the art community, and the consistency of the aesthetics that she puts forward. She quickly became a template for how I wanted to present myself on YouTube. However, in both cases of OSP and Duchess Celestia, their avatars are just 2D, which poses several hurdles that I'd have to face if I wanted to pursue that personally. Firstly, I'd have to settle on what I want my avatar to look like, which sounds simple enough because when you're making a 3D model, technically, you also have to settle on what they look like before you can make it. Duh. However, if you've watched any of my videos on my weird relationship with art, it won't sound like a stretch when I say that making my avatar 2D would be too versatile in terms of me being able to change my mind all the time, tweaking my images and aesthetics constantly rather than just accepting what I have and settling into it. 2D is too easy to tweak, to change, and too easy for me to be indecisive with it. A drawing is just a drawing, and a drawing can be tweaked. And having that ability too readily available to someone like me means that I would never be happy. Every week my avatar would probably look a little different, have some dumb new addition, or just even be in a different style of art, because I don't have one personally and I'm influenced constantly by other artists that I admire. So yeah, 2D was too open. creatively. But secondly, on top of the fact I'd never stop working on my avatar's image, a problem that occurred to me was that each emotion is just an image. Duchess Celestia is just using PNGs of her avatar and all her different emotions on a separate video editing track while she's making her videos, and swapping out one emote for another when her tone shifts. And as much as that can become second nature while editing, to just insert and change those at will, it felt like the last thing that I should be doing right now is adding more process to my process. Editing any given video I made was going to take twice as long and require a lot more practice editing, because I'd have to manage, insert, cut, transition every time that I changed my tone, which compared to other people, I think is a lot. So in the end, I knew a couple things. I wanted an avatar to better focus my brand and my personality, because anything is more engaging than nothing, and that it couldn't be a 2D drawing. So I was left with one option, a 3D model that I could lock into and could emote in time with what I'm saying while I'm recording. I wanted to become a VTuber. I've tested out Vtubing with a pretty simple model already on my second channel, and I immediately fell in love with it. It's kind of crazy how much joy I got from seeing an avatar speak in my stead, make faces when I make faces. Vtubing is a strange conduit through which I could now finally enjoy my own expressions. I'll talk about the physicalities that led me to decide to wanting to implement an avatar instead of just vlog in another video, because ironically, the highest ranking and engagement video on this channel to date is an analysis of the movie Surely I Did, which is just me, full IRL face. I have vlogged before on this channel, and the success of that Shirley video strengthens the point that faces matter, and mine isn't even good. Based on all the comments that I get on that video, they're there for what I say and not what I look like, but having a face helped. It engaged. But when what I look like day to day is holding me back from making the content that I want, when I want, in the first place, because my skin is bad or my hair isn't done, that's just something that I want to avoid more than anything if I want to be a real YouTuber. I wanted to make that Shirley video, my most successful video, for weeks before I actually did, because my setup was shit, my skin was ragged, and I didn't have time. I fit it in where I could and when I could, but not because I really wanted to. Looking back on it, I can see just how uncomfortable I was, and I don't want that to be an element impeding on my content. If my insecurities and face are a hindrance, not just to the quality, but to the actual making of my content itself, then I knew that I'd have to work around that, and this is the solution that I've come up with. I'm going to embrace being a VTuber instead. I know VTubing has a certain niche right now. It's more like people personifying themselves into avatars, so it's easier to just hang out or game. But I feel like that's slowly changing. That VTubing is becoming more of an accepted option to people who want to make deeper content, but need a different physical conduit for that than their actual bodies. Because expression does matter to convey points. Faces help and engage audiences. And if I want to continue to be the best YouTuber that I can be, then I need to transition into having one instead of just avoiding it entirely. Or not making content because I have to rely on my own body. So what I'm trying to say is that you should be expecting my debut soon, I guess. But there's a lot more going into it than just that, though. If it was about making some random VRM file and slapping it onto my channel, I'd have just used Vroid like I did for my gaming channel and gotten it over with. I wanted this one to genuinely express myself and to be of the quality that I want to represent this channel. Not only that, but I want to solidify a format, or at least a setting, so that every video feels like it's one of my videos. I'm leaning more towards a layout like Duchess Celestia implements, but we'll see. Please follow along with my process of finding myself. I hope that we both get to the end and feel good about the results. Thanks for watching and listening to my winding explanation of the process of deciding to be a VTuber. Let me know how you feel about VTubers. Do you watch VTubers? What kind of content do you feel like VTubers generally create? Or do you think that they're not actually defined by a niche at all? Are you a VTuber? Introduce yourself to me, and very soon I will be introducing myself to you. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.